Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
And by airs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at airs.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Become a global player in your field.
Cross Culture to Go provides virtual support for your global business and career success.
We can help you thrive in 140 plus countries and markets.
On the web at crossculturetogo.com.
Hi, this is Ed Cohen, your broadcast host on Global TV Talk Show. This is a news service of globalbusinessnews.net, which has been around since '03. Google Analytics has tracked 1.2 million reader page views on the sites of globalbusinessnews.net. More recently and more accurate, Global TV has started because of COVID. It started in April of 2020. And Google Analytics has measured a little over 100,000 reader page views on Global TV Network since then, including about 25,000 from January 1, 2021 up through May 10. So thank you for tuning in. Our very special guest today is TESSA BOONE, who's a global mobility manager for the Ford Motor Corporation. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really honored to have this opportunity to speak with you. Let's talk a little bit about you. You've been in global mobility a very long time, right?
Well, very long, Ed. That's not exactly what a lady wants to hear, right? I've been in global mobility. I've been with Ford for about 7 years. And I came to Ford with just over 10 years of experience at BMW. So I've been in this automotive manufacturing space in the global mobility area for a while now, yeah.
Thank you so much for correcting me and redirecting me. So when you were with BMW, was that in the US or in Germany?
It was in the US, yeah. I was located in South Carolina. So in South Carolina, in Spartanburg, South Carolina, they have a large manufacturing facility. Yeah. And had responsibility for those into that facility and out from that facility. So very much a kind of a regional, local kind of role. I did spend some time in Munich. I did live in Munich twice with the company. The first time I was there, I was with my husband who was also working at BMW, and we spent some time in Munich. And I was working as well there. And then I went on my own and did a project they asked me to assist with. And so I spent some time in Munich without my family, which is not so nice, but Munich is a lovely, lovely place. So I've been that expat, which I think is also helpful to have been on the other side of the table, basically.
Good for you. That's really, that's depth. So at our 9 a.m., the show just ended, our special guest was from Munich. And
okay.
Yeah, her name is Birgit Reidenreich, and she's running Expat Business Club out of Munich. And so more on that later. But and we also produced a live meeting in Munich in the city, in the Marriott, probably 15 years ago. We've also produced meetings in Berlin and 4 in Frankfurt over the years. So
Okay.
quite familiar
Yeah.
with that, and always been welcomed, thankfully. COVID has impacted everything and everybody, and it's crazy making. At the same time, it's opened up avenues like this, because for 20 years, I produced a lot of meetings, over 300 live meetings in a lot of places, and was always afraid of being on camera. Doesn't look it now, but I was always afraid of it. But now I realize that it's a heck of a good vehicle for communication with people like us getting together now, and
Sure.
just meeting Birgit in Munich an hour ago. So, wow. So let's talk about strategy going about RFPs, of course, because everything has
Sure.
either been on hold or it's slowed down to a crawl. And now everybody's been saying, well, we're going to wait and see, and we're not canceling, we're putting on hold. And then all of a sudden, there's like a boom, like, just for an aside, here in Southern California, it's an economic boom going on. And it wasn't that way 60 days ago, which was deathly quiet. But in the last 60 days, particularly in the last 30 days, it is a madhouse, and things are just zooming, not just real estate prices, but the freeways are clogged, the Port of LA,
Okay.
which is all backed up, loaded with stuff coming in from Asia, and it's just a madhouse. So strategy and tactics, RFPs coming up. Can you give us a little bit of insight? I don't expect any secrets, but can you give us some insight about what's
Sure.
going on?
Yeah. So, yeah, I agree that there were probably a lot of organizations that were kind of in a wait and see. There was a lot of uncertainty last year, and we had a lot of assignments that were planned that couldn't go through, a lot of assignments that were planned that then got canceled. We did have a major business disruption at Ford, where we actually, closed our plants, and that just doesn't happen. So there was a lot of uncertainty from a financial perspective, but now we are, moving forward in a big way. And so from a, business review perspective, at Ford, we work pretty closely with our purchasing partners and evaluate the contracts that we have with different vendor partners, with different service providers. And they will want us to go out to market every 10 years. So if we have a contract that we've had in place that we have potentially renewed once or twice, right, they really want us to do a pretty extensive market test. And so we did one of those here recently for our relocation management company. And we are about to head into one for our tax services. And both of those are pretty extensive. We have a pretty extensively outsourced program. We rely heavily on our vendor partners to service our program. And so we are gearing up. And I just wanted to share a couple of the sort of highlights of our approach to this.
Thank you.
What I really like about Ford's approach, again, is that relationship with purchasing that we have. And I don't expect purchasing to know my business like I do. I don't expect them to know what we need to run our program. And I don't expect them to know the vendors in the marketplace that are going to be best suited to be invited or to service our needs. But we work very closely together with them on what we call a commodity strategy. And this is, it's a purchase for Ford. It's a service contract, but it's a sizable purchase, similar to what we buy for nuts and bolts for the car. Okay, it's a commodity, and we take a really strategic, thorough, thoughtful approach to this. to make sure that we understand, what are we buying? What do we need? Truly, what do we want to buy? And how do we want to buy it? Do we want to buy this from one vendor, from multiple vendors? Do we want to set ourselves up for a short-term situation, for a long-term situation? We're really and collecting that stakeholder feedback and taking a moment and thinking about this, which I think is really, really helpful. It sets you up for a much better, much more focused approach to the process. An RFP process is not the easiest. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work from a corporate perspective, and it's a lot of work for those vendors that are bidding, right? And so we want to be real thoughtful.
So I need to ask about trust and ROI. Is there such a thing? Is it using the purchasing approach, the commodity thing that you mentioned a few times? Is there a way to measure it? The ROI.
Yeah. Good. ROI is the unicorn, Ed. I mean, it's this elusive thing, and there's no silver bullet, right? I believe that you're measuring only what you have set out, where you have identified metrics and where you are truly setting out to be measuring. In other words, if you don't have that structure in place, if the culture of the organization is not such that, this is something that is wanted, that measurement and that information is wanted, and that the organization commits to measuring these criteria, whatever that criteria might be for your organization, then you're just never going to get there, right? So there has to be a pretty high level and a pretty deep-seated commitment, I think, from the organization.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a timely announcement.
Hi, I'm Sergey Gorbatov.
I'm Angela Lane.
Together we're researchers, writers and practitioners in the field of human resources.
And we've also been multi-country, multi-assignment career expats.
We owe our professional development and growth to a very large extent to the international assignment opportunities that we have had.
But in a world where distributed work may become the norm, we also want to understand what will happen to the nature, duration, and purpose of international assignments.
Together with our colleague, Julian Dalzell from the University of South Carolina, we're undertaking a study on the future of expatriation.
And we'd value your contribution. You can participate in this important study by completing a simple 10-minute questionnaire.
Access the questionnaire by typing in your browser tinyurl.com/expert study. That's tinyurl.com/expert study. You can also find the link here on Ed's website next to this video.
Thank you for joining us in this study. In return for your contribution, we'll provide you with a copy of our research.
And of course, you'll be invited to an exclusive webinar hosted by Ed, where we will share our findings right here on Global Business News.
And so please go to tinyurl.com/expat study. Take the survey so that we can better understand the future of expatriation.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
So a lot of the ROI, particularly regarding assignments, is like defining up front what's the objective and what are the points of measuring, scoring, and then capturing that person's new skill set and applying it somewhere else, which could include that transferee becoming a mentor for the person that follows along to continue that work as the assignee moves on to another.
Sure. As examples, right? There's, some organizations will do objective setting. Some will do budgets, right? If that person is responsible for saving money in a purchasing role to the tune of XYZ, and if they had not gone on assignment, then that savings potentially would not have happened. Right? There's different sorts of, based on the role the person plays, based on the way the organization is set up, there's certainly different ways of setting those objectives. But yes, there has to be measurables, right? You've got to have something that structure in place, and of course make the commitment across the organization consistently, fairly, equitably to do that. And different business units don't always see the same value in that. And so it's not always an easy conversation, right? To do that.
So the voice of the customer is something that I know you like. So got an itch here, I'm sorry. The voice of the customer is the transferee, is that right?
Well, not always. We have many customers, I think, within the talent mobility space. We work closely with various members of Total Rewards. We belong to Total Rewards. I also work very closely with other members of the HR community, HR leadership within Ford. And yes, there's also the supervisors, ultimately, of what we call people leaders, for those employees. And then there's the transferees, the employees themselves, and potentially candidates that are not yet in our process, but would like to be. So, we've got bunches of customers, I think, for our products and services.
What about single point of contact? Is there such a thing in an organization the size and scope of Ford? Are the transferees all coming to you, or are there other business partners involved? It's always been a complaint. But
yeah, there's a sweet spot in there, right? I don't want them all coming to me, Ed, because right, I wouldn't sleep. There wouldn't be enough hours in the day. No, we work together with our relocation management company, and the relocation management company is that point of contact. So we direct the employee, once we are certain that this is the candidate of choice, and the assignment has been approved and budget has been approved, well, then we authorize services with the relocation management company, and they're the ones that are having those conversations and supplying, educating, providing information, utilizing their own technology and their own platforms for sharing information for the employee. And it's a single point of coordination. I don't think that it can be a single point of contact because there are different parties involved. It takes a village, right, to move someone abroad. And so it doesn't really make sense that it's just one person. That one person doesn't have the level of expertise necessary for immigration for that market, or for tax consulting for that market, or is certainly not as knowledgeable about the on-the-ground services and about the housing market as someone from a destination service provider. So, a single point of contact, I'm not sure. Single point of coordination, though, is certainly our goal.
Interesting. So I don't know who your primary RMC is, and I don't need to know right now, but I would assume that you embody the culture of Ford, and you relay that culture to your RMC. So the RMC absorbs your culture and then finds somebody in that RMC to be that operative relating to the transferee, right?
Yes, agreed. We did very in the implementation as well as continued activity. We have actual culture training that we provide. We have materials that we share with our relocation management company that says, this is Ford, this is who we are, this is what we believe in, this is what our employees know, these are our truths, these are our values. Yes, absolutely. They're an extension of our team, Ed. We need them to be aligned with what we're sharing and what we're communicating to the employees.
Interesting ways of doing things. So DE&I understand that's one of your pet things. So
love it. Yeah.
Tell me more about that from your view.
Yes. So we have as one of our values at Ford, care for each other, and it's part of our business strategy ultimately. And so there's a lot of really great work that has been done and that continues to be done at Ford in regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we are, connected to that, or connecting ourselves to that in the way that we are looking at our policy, in the way that we are looking at benefits, and in the way that we are looking at different processes, how things are communicated, what kind of accommodations and considerations can be made basically to increase opportunity. We realize that there are certain groups within our organization that may not have the opportunity to go abroad. They may not feel that this is something that they could do or could consider, or they may not be always considered from the business perspective. And so we want to ensure that our products and services, that what we do, how we structure our program, is open to that and accommodating to that.
So with the advent of electric cars, like the electric Ford 150, it's in the news today.
Lightning, yes, launching today.
So what kind of people would be transferred in normal times, relocated to handle that product?
Well, we have a vehicle, we have an electric vehicle center that is here in Dearborn, in Michigan. Ultimately, the talent that we are bringing into the organization, either permanently or temporarily, right, through global mobility, would be coming in to work within that team and within that center. We are competing with many other tech companies and other automotive manufacturing companies for that talent. It's hot, high demand, hot talent that we're looking for there. And so this is, definitely a group that we are, but not just for this particular vehicle. There's, a need for this type of talent, the high tech, high demand sorts of skills that is global for Ford, because we have many engineering centers outside of the United States. And so this continues to be for us within global mobility, but also from a talent perspective overall, from a total rewards perspective, a very interesting group.
So let's talk about Zoom, the hybrid, work from anywhere kind of a thing. I'm sure all companies are involved in that, even a giant size corporation like Ford. But how do you really feel about working from
Tell
anywhere?
us how you really feel. So, yeah, work from anywhere is just one of those words that gets batted around, that an expression that's just out there right now. And I would say that this is not necessarily a commitment that Ford is making right today. I don't know if it will be one day. Come and work for Ford. You can work from anywhere, right? That's not something that we are, saying today. We realize that there is an evolution of work happening, Ed. It is, undeniable. We have the way that work is being done, and the way that where we are able to do that work is changing. And so we have to understand what that means for our organization. And so we are engaged from a global mobility perspective in that discussion. And there is a task force that is working through that at Ford. And, we are looking more at intra-country right now. If the role that you have, for example, is such that you could really perform that role working from home, that there really is not a need for you to be physically within an office space, collaborating with others necessarily in person, and that the technology that we have today would enable you to do your job remotely to 100%. And you basically say, I really feel like I want to live in Colorado, or, I have a summer home in Florida, or, what does that look like for Ford? How can we manage compliance from that perspective? But we're really not necessarily entertaining the international, that cross-border remote working right now. It is, that requires a bit more structure, a bit more planning, a bit more involved conversations at very high levels, because that is, putting the company at a much higher risk ultimately. And so that's really not something that we're focused on today. Will we in the future? Potentially. I don't think we can avoid it, but it's not something that we're actively working on today.
So one of the concepts in other companies that I've been speaking with is that they would want somebody in Shanghai or in India or in Brazil to work for their company, and they don't want to pay for any transfers. So you work from home and we'll figure it out. Okay. And they give them more budget for equipment and connectivity, and there's the corporate culture about what not to do and how to look and that kind of thing. So, but for a large organization such as Ford, I can see that there's that, but then there's the Ford way of doing things. And, we've got to be really clear about what we're doing. Yeah. Makes sense.
It's also too that, Ford is a manufacturing facility. So, a manufacturing company. We make things, big things, and complex things. And that requires place-dependent employees. You can't make a car from your summer home in Florida. So, we have a large portion of our population that would never be eligible for this kind of work. And so we then have to also consider that as we are looking at when would it be appropriate? How do we evaluate those positions? How do we understand the notion of innovation and collaboration and being in a space together and sharing ideas physically in a room with other people? How do we understand that? And so that's all part of that discussion, right?
Well, thank you, Tessa. This has really been a fast 30 minutes or so, and I've learned a lot.
Speed round.
And I'm sure our audience out there across the next year will find this specific recording as a go-to resource for their own thinking. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me, Ed. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Okay. So this is Tessa Boone, Global Mobility Manager for Ford, and this is Global TV. Thank you, Tessa. Really appreciate you.
All right. Take care now.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.